Kenyans have to remain vigilant against any attempts to claw back on democratic gains under the new constitution. Patrick Amimo, KTN News, Nairobi.
Constitutional lawyer Bobby Mkangi, as well as a former member of the now defunct committee of experts, joining us virtually. Thank you very much for making time for us here on KTN Prime. In a very recent publication, speaking about the Constitution and its implementation, you described it as a willing spirit in an unwilling body. Why is that?
I think the sentiments that have been said by the gentlemen, very eminent gentlemen and constitutional lawyers who spoke before me, led me to arrive at that decision that we have a constitution whose spirit and the provisions thereof are very progressive. A constitution that is now a cliche to say that is one of the most progressive in the world. A constitution that answered the questions which Kenyans had been asking since independence. Issues to do with corruption, issues to do with accountable leadership, issues to do with good governance, issues to do with, at the end of the day, all these concepts, principles, an emboldened human rights chapter. When you look at devolution, devolved government as a way of getting Kenyans to democratize more, to be bigger players in service delivery, all those who are going to, at the end of the day, deliver a better Kenya for Kenyans, a better life for Kenyans.
Right.
But unfortunately, we've heard that its implementation has been failing, and for various reasons, which were described by the speakers before me. And that's why I felt like we have a good spirit, but unfortunately, the body, both political and socially, is not up to task.
So 10 years later, what are we saying? This document has not in any way worked for the ordinary Mwananchi. Where are the gaps?
We're not saying it hasn't worked. And I think many Kenyans are, I would say, complaining right now because they feel and think that we could have done much better. They know the things that have been ailing us are things that are synthetic, created by ourselves. When you talk about issues to do with corruption, when you talk about misuse of public office, powers and functions. So they know we have the wherewithal, we have the funds, we have the ability, we have men and women who can run this country very well. Yes, and I think Professor Lumumba did speak to that. The document is not perfect. We are human. We can never produce anything that's perfect, and that's why we need to grow and grow with it. But what we have and what is considered to be good, what good have we exploited of that to deliver a better Kenya for the country? So what is good or bad right now actually is very hard to decipher, because we've actually not been able to make use of what we have. I give the example of, having a car and not putting petrol in it, and when it doesn't move, you blame the car and you say you want to buy a new car because this one is not moving.
Picking from that analogy, we're now right in the middle of a conversation on perhaps whether it's time to change the constitution or make amendments. And some of the issues that you raise, corruption, system of leadership, are canvassed in what is now famously known as the BBI report. When we were sitting down as a committee of experts developing this document, did we have estimates perhaps on by when then should we start auditing the constitution and perhaps having a conversation on whether it's time to change it?
Our chairman then, Nzamba Kitonga, in various fora has indicated that we did anticipate that a period from 7 to 10 years would be an adequate period for us to see whether we need to rehabilitate the dispensation. And that is because we remember the first 5 years, we did give time, and especially under the auspices of the now defunct Constitutional Implementation Commission, for them to put in place the scaffolding legislation that would help us to climb to the promise of the Constitution. And then after that, after county governments have been put in place and other institutional reforms have been done, then we start to see whether we are heading to the right place or not. And I think at this time, that's when we are able to really sit down and look at whether we've been able to put everything that we're supposed to do, act in the way that we're supposed to act, to deliver that promise that Kenyans had. So I like saying, when you look at the Constitution, it avails the opportunity at any time, which means it's the reasons for amending the Constitution that are primary. And so any Kenyan can make the proposal that I think I have a good idea, we need to rehabilitate in this way, and offer it to Kenyans. If Kenyans feel that it is the right reasons, it is the right thing, it's the ideas are going to make the document better, then they're going to affirm that either through parliament or through a referendum. But what I've been hearing from many Kenyans, and even before this week when you're marking the 10th anniversary, is they feel that implementation is what is really lacking. And they feel that perhaps right now, if we say we want to amend the Constitution because we feel that it's the provisions, it's the words that are not working for us, then they cannot truly gauge that, whereas in the background, they hear of corruption, misuse of office. You know, right now, you just did a story about health and medical workers strike, and things like that. So they feel perhaps, and I join them in that spirit, that maybe a better evaluation as to whether it's the time or not needs to be done. However, as I say, that is the right of every Kenyan to propose and recommend changes and offer that to Kenyans. If they agree, well and good.
A lot of Kenyans and perhaps experts that we've spoken to seem to have a general feeling that perhaps most of these fundamental processes, and especially around the Constitution and constitutional changes, are constantly taken political hostage. Do you hold that opinion?
Well, we have to remember that, one, generally and globally, constitution making, the Constitution is a political tool within a political space. And so the politics in terms of institutions, personalities, processes, and the context within which such crafting of a document like a Constitution or amending it will obviously be visited by that spirit, that context of whatever political adventures are within that society at that moment. So in terms of the processes being held hostage, definitely that will happen. It depends on, you know, how politically well organized the different groups, the people, the different protagonists are. If you find that there are groups that are not well prepared, and I heard you mention about, you know, Wananchi themselves, civil society organization, vis-a-vis the political class, then you find that mismatch, and obviously the team that is quote unquote better organized will have a better say of how the process runs. And if that is what political hostage is, I think that is how politics runs, and that's why people have to be vigilant. People have to wake up, and if they feel they need to protect the Constitution, they need to ensure the process runs in a way that adds value to their lives. I think that's what they need to do. Otherwise, this is a political process.
All right. Thank you very much, Bobby Mkangi, for